Thank you. May I ask Comrade Manawina Kulisa to open for us to go to prayer?
Shall we pray? Our sovereign Father, we want to thank you for this day. We want to thank you, Lord, that as we deliver the spirit of comfort, the spirit of courage, wisdom, Father, shall indeed be bestowed upon us. As we deliberate, we speak that God, you will go with us, that you will open a revolution, because what we do is for the people of Zambia. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, let me call it an extraordinary press briefing. You know, there was a time that there was one president who was shot dead in the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln. And the people that attended that burial at the time to share with their grandchildren that I was there when we were buried. So you must be proud that you are here today, because one day you are going to say, no, I was there when this press briefing took place. Welcome to the making of history, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce to you the people on the high table without following not any order at all. The people who are here to address us. On my far right, no other than President Jackson Silavwe. Next to President Silavwe, no other than President Hari Kalava. Next to President Hari Kalava, President Saboyi Mboela. Sometimes she calls herself the jailbird. She will explain. Next to President Mboela, no other than President State Council, Winter Kabimba. Next to President Kabimba, a person who needs very little introduction, unless you don't watch TV. No other than Honorable Raphael Nakachinda, presenting the Patriotic Front, member of the Central Committee. And the host president of this place, no other than President Sean Enoch Tembo. Thank you, gentlemen. This is the order of how this press briefing is going to move. Just after this introduction, President Kabimba will take to the floor, and then he's going to speak on private audit firms, the engagement of private audit firms. The second speaker will be President Saboyi, who's going to speak on human rights abuses. And then, okay. So I'm just being guided here. As we start, as they'll be speaking, they are going to introduce the topic that they are going to be speaking on. And I don't want to say so many things, because I know there'll be time that you people will need to ask questions. Okay? So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me invite the first speaker of our press briefing, no other than President Winter Kabimba.
Thank you, moderator, chairperson of the programs, my comrades, President Silavwe, President Hari Kalava, President Saboyi Mboela, President Sean Tembo, and my brother, chairperson of information from the Patriotic Front, and you colleagues in the media. We meet here this morning. We met this morning to address a very important topical issue which relates to gross violation of our Constitution. The violation is gross because the President himself, Riichest, is complicity to this violation. In the last 1 week or so, there has been a trending, starting from Parliament and the media, the issue of who has authorized or awarded the tender or the contract to two private companies, two private international companies. One is Grant Thornton, the other one is PricewaterhouseCoopers, to come and audit the books of accounts of our defense and security and intelligence services. This is unprecedented in the history of this country. It has never happened before. It is happening for the first time under the watch of President Riichest. To date, nobody has given us a clear-cut answer in the government until yesterday. Those of you who follow the events, you must have read yesterday that for the first time since this matter started trending, there has been this revelation, this disclosure at the Ministry of Finance, not by us in the opposition, but at the Ministry of Finance, that indeed a contract has been awarded to the two international companies to audit our security, defense, security, and intelligence services books of accounts. Now, what do we know about this matter? When this matter came up in Parliament during the Vice President's question time last Friday, the Vice President, Darren Mango, said in the floor of the House that that contract was awarded because the Auditor General had delegated his powers to the two companies to undertake this job. Now, here is what we know so far. Firstly, that indeed this contract has been signed. By who? It has been signed by officials at the Ministry of Finance, not by the Auditor General. What else do we know about it? That the two companies involved are indeed foreign companies, they're international companies, Grant Thornton and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Thirdly, that the Auditor General has confirmed that he had nothing to do, he had nothing whatsoever to do with the award of this contract to the two companies. Now, there is something that is not being said. It has not been said in Parliament. It has not been said outside Parliament. It has not been said by you colleagues in the media. That President Riichest, in 2016, issued a statement saying that he was still a partner in Grant Thornton and he was simply going on leave. So as he is now in his State House, he is on leave from Grant Thornton, the audit firm. Therefore, he still has interest in Grant Thornton. Therefore, he still is a beneficiary or ultimately be a beneficiary from the proceeds of this contract which has been signed by the Ministry of Finance and Grant Thornton and PricewaterhouseCoopers. It is therefore clear that President Riichest has not come or did not go to State House to go and govern this country, but he is gone there to continue doing his business using the vote of the Zambian people. That as far as he is concerned, his business interest is paramount over and above the interest of the Zambian people. Dear comrades, this is the first time in the history of this country when we have a president who is more popular outside this country than he is within his own country. Yeah. So, HH has become a fashion model. He enjoys parading himself abroad, taking photos with foreign dignitaries. That's what he has come. He's a fashion model. That's what he has become. Back here at home, he is interested in everything that can enrich him more than what he claims to be rich already. And therefore, it is important that the Zambian people get to unmask HH. We must unmask HH and see the true HH behind that mask. The HH that projected himself and presented himself before 2021 elections is not the HH that we have today. We have a different HH. We have an HH who lied to the Zambian people, rode on those lies, got a vote of the vote of the 2.8 million people, and I didn't vote for him, so I am not part of the 2.8. And I would never ever vote for him. He rode on that vote, and then he's come to turn around against the same people. But he's not only unpopular outside his party, he is now become unpopular even within his own party. Those of you who follow news every day, you will see how despondent UPND members have become. You see how members of the UPND are questioning whether the person they supported before 2021 or in the 23 years of his being at the helm of the UPND political party is the same HH that they are dealing with today. And therefore, we in the opposition have decided to take a stance that the only way we can get the truth about this audit gate, about HH's interest in this auditing, about who is responsible for this contract, is for us to take up the matter to court. So tomorrow I'll be sending a letter of demand to Stumbeko Musokotwani as Minister of Finance. I'll be giving him 7 days to tell us exactly who signed the contract, why that contract was signed against the advice of the Auditor General, and if we don't get a satisfactory answer within 7 days, we shall commence judicial review proceedings in the High Court so that we can unmask HH more. So I want to send or put HH on notice, together with the Vice President, together with the Minister of Finance, that before the close of business today, they should be receiving a letter of demand. And whether or not they respond to that letter, at the expiry of the 7 days, we shall commence judicial review proceedings. If we don't do that, HH will make State House an extension of Grant Thornton. And we don't want him to do that, because that is not part of Grant Thornton. Because Grant Thornton is an international company which cannot be allowed under our constitution to audit the books of accounts of our defense and security services, including our intelligence. It has never been done in the history of this country. We shall not allow it to be done under HH. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, next to speak, NDC President, no other than Comrade Savoy Imboye.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, kindly allow me to write on the protocols that have been established by our council here, President Kavimba. My topic for today is about, it is on human rights, and the arbitrary arrests of our political party leaders. As you know, human rights are entitlements that everybody has, and they are guaranteed by our constitution. Zambia, we are members, we are a state party of the UN. So our human rights are guaranteed according to the many protocols, and conventions that we have signed, from the UN, and just by virtue that we're human beings, and like they say, everybody is entitled to those human rights because you are a human being. I normally hear sometimes UPND cadres saying that HH and UPND have brought freedom of expression. You hear that, isn't it?
Yes.
At HH and I have human rights. Yeah, the opposition, they are abusing the rights which HH gave them. HH didn't give me my rights. HH not give anyone rights. If anything, if HH had the rights to give anybody rights, he wouldn't give them. Because, yeah. If he had the right to do that, he wouldn't. Because right now, he doesn't have that right, but it's more like they're getting those rights away from us. If you look at me now, when I was coming out, I was saying, I'm dressed informally. Because I should have actually gone straight to the police. The police are waiting for me right now. It's like every day, whatever it is you say, you don't even know. They have to search. Because if you look at even defamation right now, so to council just the other day, Council Kavimba here, defamation is in Zambia is no longer in the letter of the constitution. Defamation in Zambia now is in the head of President HH. If he just feels that somebody has defamed him, then the police are on you. Doesn't matter what you have said. And sometimes you may not like what we are going to say. The same way, people never liked what you were saying when you're in opposition. They never came after you to arrest you for anything and everything.
Even now, we don't like what he says.
Even now, we don't like what he says, yes. But nobody's arresting him. So at the end of the day, if you look at what is happening in the country right now in terms of human rights, I think this is something that everybody has to be concerned about. If you look at this table right here, almost everybody has passed through that. President Sean Tembo there was arrested the other time, and he talked about Bali in his statement. You get the point? This is how ruthless they are. You cannot sue a person under the name Bali if you're not Bali. It does not appear on your NRC. It doesn't appear on your birth certificate. He talked about Bali, and he was picked up. Right now, he's appearing in court, actually. Under a statement he made on Bali. Okay? Honorable Nakachinda here. He has been appearing also, defamation of the president. President Silavo, you saw just the other week when I was arrested at Kawata police. He came to see me, and the UPND cadres there came to harass him. But because he's a person that knows his human rights, and he knows that those rights are not guaranteed by their dictator, he went ahead and defended himself. And it was like that. And one shudders to think what would have happened if it was not caught alive on camera. You get the point? So these are the things that we are going through right now. And the international community, the Zambians, have to take keen interest in what is going on. Because if you're going to violate people at a human rights point, our own dignity, our own integrity as human beings, we're being violated like that, then there's a problem, And I'm very, very happy I've seen that President Hayali actually has sued right now. They have sued for violation of his rights. Because too many people are going to be arrested. You saw just the other day, journalists from Movie TV, Innocent Period, was arrested as well. So what they normally say at what do they say, Nyanja or Bemba, at Naminesari Mwazankara, that is why when there's a violation of human rights, everybody has to be interested. Because today to be the politicians, tomorrow to be you. Next to be anybody, So just the other day, Movie TV went to capture whatever it is that was happening. They were arrested just for that. You get the point? And I remember, by the way, the time that I was, the police came to my house, Diamond TV came. They had to leave because of the way they were being followed. They just said, this car we're seeing behind us is not looking okay. They had to go back. You get the point? Because at the end of the day, they don't care. They go after a politician, there's a journalist there also, they arrest the journalist. So these things are not things which are normal. And that is why, as an opposition, we've been saying We shall not continue just talking. The first speaker here, President Kavimba, talked about the issue of grand total. To say, after speaking, what else do we do? We need to take action.
Yes.
You know? And that's the level that we have reached right now. Because we have seen that. We are dealing with people that are ruthless. You get the point? These guys are ruthless. If you go to the institutions of democracy right now in the country, be it the ECZ, be it the registrar of societies, be it the police, be it the courts, very strange what is going on. You get the point? The police right now, I was taken for the so-called defamation of the president. It changed within 2 seconds to defamation of Place Massacre. If you read the charge sheets, which they were reading, but you're getting shocked again. But you're saying you got this from a Facebook page. Then who wrote that? They get what you say, they paraphrase it. You know? When you paraphrase something, it has to mean exactly what the person said. You get the point? If somebody said black, then you say dark, at least you get the point. No, somebody said black, you paraphrase it, and then you say white. You know? Or clear. No, it's dark, so meaning that it's black or somebody would not see or something like that. So paraphrasing has to maintain the same meaning of what somebody said. But because they're getting these things into their own hands, they don't care. That is why somebody can say Bali and they arrest him for saying Bali. Somebody can say anything. There are certain posts which I made on my Facebook where I was even saying that Uyu Muntu. They're on the chat sheet. Uyu Muntu. I don't know who Uyu Muntu is, even myself. You know, you talk about Uyu Muntu, then you are talking about this one. How do you conclude? You know, how do you conclude that Uyu Muntu means Uyu Muntu Masontai? I had my own Muntu in my head. I get in the point. So these are the things that we feel are very, very important right now, and not only to us opposition political party leaders, but to you Zambians, and especially the media. Being the fourth estate, you have to ensure that these messages go out there, because it's very, very clear that this ruthless regime wants to do wrong things. They want to abuse our rights. They want to take away our voices. And with you also, that are the people that take out those voices to everybody else. They're going to make sure that they will take away our voices. President Kai was even telling me about my experiences in cells. When they take us to the police cells, by the way, they make sure there's no mattress. Okay? There's no mattress. We tried. Can we get a mattress in? We don't understand. Because even when a person has been put in cells, they still maintain their rights. I get to the point. They still have their rights. So even if you don't wonder, I say, look at the way I'm dressed. Oh, this is Zambia police. You know I'm a quasi supporter. So quasi for like, President Quasi jersey, I'm not wearing Zambia police society. Yeah. So when they take you to the police, they ensure that you sleep on the floor. They ensure that everything that everybody brings, they don't even give to you. President Kara, all those things you bought the other time, they remain the other side. The other stuff, of course, they bring. When it comes to food and everything, they'll bring to themselves. But when you tell other people, okay, but they can't find happy, you know, we make sure that the toilets are clean, do this, they don't even bring that. My friend Barbara, the one I used to sing, cooks very good food. She brought food for me and they refused for her to come and see me. That was the most thing that hated me the most, because I love Barbara's food very much. Normally, I only tell about Barbara himself. You know, so these are the kinds of violations. I may joke about it, but these are the kinds of violations that these police can actually do because they feel they can do that. They don't care. Right now, the way I'm dressed right now, I don't know if I'm going to go home. Even in the car, I've already packed. I've said bye to my mother, I've said bye to my children. I don't stay with my mother, but I have to bring her. Under this regime, all these years I've never stayed with my mother, but I have to bring her and say, Chone Kapa, you show jail bed. Is that a cat? Monzambi. Ukakambai chilero mayo. And at first I heard other people even say, maybe we should stop talking. We won't stop talking. No. You know, we shall not stop talking. If we're going to be jailbirds this entire term of Mr. Hakainde Ichirema, so be it. Because this is a person, by the way, if you look at even the way women and men are treated in our politics, they're not treated differently. You know, but for him, when it comes to position, he undermines women. But when it comes to brutality, he doesn't care. Honorable Mbipiri was put in that cell for a very long time without going to court. She has been abandoned there. He doesn't care. We know he spent 1.7 days in prison, but that does not mean that everybody else should suffer extensively like that. You know. So this is a person that does not care. When it comes to human rights, he will violate them because he knows that nobody will do anything. But let me give him this statement today. As the opposition, we have our rights, and those rights we are going to use. The experience we've been given in these prisons, it's not nice, it's not okay. We sleep on the floor. And just because we are strong, it doesn't mean that it's okay. So today, if they're going to put me in cells, next thing they're going to run away. For me, my sureties are always ready. Even now they are ready. But you're going to see, you follow yourself the development of what is going to happen at the force headquarters today. They put you there. Simple things. Okay, insect killer at the time. People buy insect killer. Bring insect killer. There are too many mosquitoes here. They don't care. No putting insect killer in the cells. Simple things like that. Women, like I've said, I was lucky I was put in a cell which was a bit clean than others and everything. But the fact that there were many women in there, we kept on insisting, can we please have disinfectants and everything in the cells? We continue disinfecting. They totally refused. Anyone brings that they don't want to bring to the cell, they just get like that. That's their thing. We have blankets. The blanket that we were using, Honorable Tarsila Lungu, she's the one that bought the blanket for us. She wanted to bring in more blankets. They refused that. You know, I remember President Tembo wanted to bring in a mattress. They refused. My people at home, blankets, they totally refused. You sleep on the floor. Blankets, no, take my blankets, my blankets, how does somebody kill themselves with a blanket? You know? Okay, so that, and over body. And over body for that matter. You know? So to cut the long story short, being in the cells is not a good experience. We are strong, yes, and we are ready, and we shall continue talking at the same risk of going back to those cells any day, any time. But that's a risk we have to make for the people that we talk for. Are you getting the point? As an opposition political party leader, whether they like it or not, we speak for our parties, for the people out there. Every day, if you check my phone today, people write, others will call. No, please talk about this. Please talk about that. Please talk about that. Yesterday I was on radio, somebody calls. You forgot to talk about disability issues. And everybody knows the thing that I also talk about disability issues. But yesterday I forgot. Somebody will call you. So because of that, we speak for the people out there. The same way we're speaking for the people out there. And they should not stop us. Those are our human rights. So whether they like it or not, whether they feel comfortable with it or not, we are going to ensure that we stand on our rights. The integrity, everything that they want to rip away from us, they won't manage. If it's killing us, they'll just kill us. You get the point? Why live for everything if you can't die for something? And what are we going to die for? We're going to die for our country. We're going to die for our own human rights. You know, that's exactly how it is. So when it comes to human rights, to conclude, like I said once again, we shall not stop talking, whatever the consequences are, because the Zambians need voices to speak for them now than ever before. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, maybe except those who are holding on to the cameras, we have some water at the table, the fire there. Please give someone to pass you water. Next to speak, ladies and gentlemen, no other than President Jackson Slav.
Good morning, colleagues from the media. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, fellow leaders at the high table. Good morning, sir. I would like to also recognize different members, senior members of different political parties that are present here. I've seen chairpersons, members of the highest policy-making organs of different political parties that are represented here. I also want to recognize you. Mine topic, or I want to apply myself to the topic of political violence, as well as some components in the breakdown of the rule of law. That is what I'm going to talk about. And I want to start with my own account. And that has already been alluded to by my colleague, NDC President Savoy Mboy, that when she was incarcerated at Kabwata police station, as a colleague from the opposition, I went to visit her. And of course, as some of you may know, the conduct of the police officers at Kabwata was extremely disheartening. They were quite indisciplined and they were extremely political. We were made to wait for more than 25 minutes, thinking that you had someone in the cell, just to be told actually that there was no one there. There was a show of force at Kabwata police station, the police wanting to show themselves that they are in charge. But we patiently waited with my team and got to see my colleague. And on our way out, we said, let us also brief the nation on what we have, experienced here at Kabwata police station. We started the address. Some of you saw the video. And lo and behold, we were surrounded by UPND cadres. And their intention can only be known to themselves. But we can only guess that they were ready to do anything to us. It was extremely shocking that we experienced such, because we've always conducted ourselves in a different manner when it comes to politics. So it was extremely shocking for us and my team. And this was being done in full view of the police officers. And colleagues, what you may not have seen in that video is that all the police officers from Kabwata police station came out of the police station and they were watching.
Sure.
If you can see the video when I turn walking back to my vehicle, you can see all the police officers just watching. And one of the things that was extremely shocking to me and my team is that some of the cadres that came to attack us, they were coming from a police station. And the question that I still ask up to this very day, what were the UPND cadres doing at Kabwata police station? Because the person that was incarcerated was not their member, was not their president.
Yes.
But they were camped at Kabwata police station. In the aftermath of the attack, we got to learn that the gentleman in a jacket in that video is actually a former bodyguard to President Hakainde Hichilema when he was in the opposition.
Sure.
We also got to discover that he's very close to the minister in charge of the police, Minister of Internal Affairs, Honorable Jackman. Up to now, there's been no statement from the UPND to condemn the attack by their members on us. But you get to notice that the issue of political violence in our country is on the rise. In time past, we had cadres clad in military fatigue, capes, and all sorts of regalia, that when you see them, you can recognize them. The cadres we have in the New Dawn administration, they put on a jacket, they put on a shirt, just as those that attack, so that they are not easily recognizable. We have seen the rise of political violence in Mukushi, in full view again of the police. The UPND cadres were able to attack their opponents in the opposition, whilst the police are watching. In Lusangazi, it was the same. We had the UPND attack their opponents, throwing stones to their opposition colleagues in full view of the police. In Kafue, now we have the UPND turning on themselves, perpetuating violence against UPND versus UPND. And I want to admonish the nation that violence has got no master. And I would like to send a timely warning to the UPND. Just because today they yield state power and control men and women who bear arms in our republic, they should not think that they've got the monopoly of violence. Every person being taught, every person whose rights are being infringed on has got the capacity to respond. Because as the saying goes, violence only begets more violence. And we should never take our nation down that road. The UPND must quickly curb political violence. In their opposition, they sang the loudest about the violence that was being meted on them. They should not be the new masters of political violence. They should not be. We need to understand that the issues concerning political violence are not by law. It's about the attitude of the people that are ruling us. What you saw transpire at Kabwata is the attitude of the UPND against their political opponents. Had we not stood up for ourselves, that violence would have continued to every police station that we go to visit our colleagues. Other issue that I want to handle is the issue of the rule of law in our country. We have seen a direct assault by the ruling party as far as the rule of law is concerned. We have seen now even state institutions following now suit. You had the Electoral Commission of Zambia announce the new dates for by-elections in the country when there was a court order in place. 2 hours. Up to now, we've never had a statement from the UPND on what transpired at Kabwata. They are quiet. I ask again the Zambian people, does it mean that the violence of the UPND is sacred? Because nobody talks about the violence in UPND when it is perpetuated by them. Sure. I asked a question in the aftermath of my attack. You media colleagues, if it was me who pushed that man, maybe he hurt themselves, which I can do. I was just managing the situation. If I pushed him or maybe he hurt himself, colleagues, I ask you, what could have happened to me? I would have been at Mukobeko. They even threw away the kids. I said, let him rot there. We may laugh at them today, but we don't know what could have transpired that day if we never stood up for ourselves. And I want to say this to the Zambian people. The Zambian people should not be intimidated. This violence being perpetuated by the ruling party needs to be stopped. Yes. And you, the Zambian people, have got the power to stop it. We need to stop it together before it goes further than the way it is right now. Colleagues, I thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next to speak, no other than President Harry Kalaba.
Thank you very much. I think I will ride on the protocols that have already been introduced by my colleagues. I'm happy to see all of you leaders here. Remember, united we stand, divided we collapse. We have all seen the erratic nature in which government is managing the agriculture sector. And this is very worrying for us, as agriculture is supposed to be the key driver for Zambia's economy. While copper, which we seem to be focusing on, is a wasting asset, agriculture, on the other hand, represents economic and environmental sustainability. According to the ILO, agriculture alone accounts for over 48% of those who are employed in Zambia. It is also fair to say that over 80% of those employed in rural areas are employed in the agriculture sector, and the majority of which are women. A global watchdog that tracks commodity production indicated that Zambia had produced 3.6 million tons of grain in the 2020-2021 farming season, up by nearly 7% of the previous year's production of 3.4 million tons, creating an excess of well over 1.2 million tons, considering that the country's consumption is just around 2.2 million tons per year. The same statistics were recorded by the US Department of Agriculture. With such statistics, it therefore follows that Zambia's agriculture sector has until now been on the growth trajectory and needed a boost to ensure that growth is not just sustained, but more importantly increased if we are to satisfy the yearning demand in the region and the continent as a whole. Alas, what we are experiencing today is exactly the opposite. If not intended to completely obliterate the sector in a bid to push self-interest and the private enterprise at the expense of the suffering majority. I think we have all seen that the major interest of our government has not been about when the farmers will receive the farming inputs. It has been who is winning the tender to supply the fertilizer. And that is a major source of worry. The delay in the distribution of inputs will most certainly have a significant negative impact on agriculture in the 2022-2023 farming season in Zambia and the region. It is not just poor economic management to starve a sector that is meant to lay your golden egg. It also shows a lack of understanding that the fundamentals that promote peace and unity in the nation. It is embarrassing to note that in some places, as many as 40 people are sharing 10 bags of fertilizer. That's a ratio of 4 to 1. How do 4 people share 1 bag of fertilizer? And you go out and start claiming to be good economic managers? My jokes. How do you justify the fact that today, 16th November, right? Farm inputs are still marooned in warehouses. And in some cases, suppliers and distributors are yet to be identified. This is not just acceptable, but also shows a clear lack of appreciation of the role that agriculture plays in the Zambian economy. We will not belabor the point, but the only thing we are doing is to call upon the New Dawn government to, even at the very least, pretend to be a listening government and ensure that they take all possible measures to address this situation. The same way we called on the president to leave Egypt and come back to Zambia and provide oversight in the distribution of imports. And he at least took the advice, actually, because he left that Egypt even before the US president arrived. We are asking the president to call upon the Zambia National Service to help with the distribution of inputs. Please, let them get involved, as they have the capacity to manage such logistical challenges before the roads become impassable. Finally, we want to remind our friends in government to take time to understand life in rural Zambia. You spend time on the farm cultivating, planting, and tendering your produce, and when you have harvested and exhausted your produce, you start looking at other sources of livelihood. And in this case, that source is most likely going to be either poaching for those who live near game reserves, or tree cutting and charcoal burning, which will have a devastating impact on our carbon footprint. Your delay in giving out inputs will not just cause untold starvation, but will trigger these social vices and cause serious damage to this country. We therefore would like to call upon government to hasten the pace of resolving this agriculture impasse before the gains we had made in this sector are completely dissipated. And that will result in a lot of social vices, including an increase in divorce cases, spousal abuse, and in some extreme cases, loss of lives and property. I think it is very important that the agriculture sector takes the center stage that it should take. Most of our people live on agriculture. And you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand that it is the first time in many years that fertilizer is reaching the farmers in November. Because strictly speaking, fertilizer should have been in provinces as early as July. It has not even reached, right? I'm a farmer, actually. For those of you who didn't know, I'm a farmer. Up to now, we have not yet gotten the fertilizer. So in case you think I'm just talking the talk, we have not gotten the fertilizer, and the workers at the farm, we are still waiting to obtain that fertilizer. And even if you find the fertilizer, the price is so excruciatingly high that you cannot even manage to buy a bag of fertilizer. We are told a bag was going to cost 250 kwacha. It is now costing 1,200 per bag. And you are saying you want to promote agriculture. This is a mockery of the agriculture sector. And we want it to stop. And for once, can we give value to our farmers? Can we give respect to the people that are providing food security? We are tired of this talking every other day. We want the UPND government to begin walking the talk, not just talking the talk. I thank you.
Thank you very much. That was President Harry Kalava. Okay, we are about to listen to the last but one speaker. Last but one speaker. Remember, we have some water. Those that need to take some water, have some water at the bar. Find there. Whichever they find, there's some water there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our last but one speaker, no other than President Sean Enoch Tembo.
Countrymen and women, the economy is not doing well. You know, when people ushered in a new government in October, or rather August of last year, they expected to see some changes in their households, at least within a year. At least within a year. And we have seen so far that each and every administration that has run the affairs of this country, they have left some kind of legacy. Something to kumbukirapo. Simamen. Wayunipi wanatsirako free education. That's why we are able to speak this good English we are speaking today. MMD wanaisa kona wewe hapa na hapa privatization tambo jako na maapo tezoyaona chape pa TV. Na makala TV. Na ma cell phone yose wayatiletera wa MMD. Wa PF wanataka kwa infrastructure. Watu wa town ya Zambezi Road, it looks like Tokyo. So lokwenzeri koma mismanagement here and there, bamene wanachita bione. Manje wanzatu wa New Dawn. So far their only legacy ni majanki. Majanki is their only legacy. The junkies are the children for Hakainde Hichilem. Because before Hakainde became president, Majanki is only patari maningi. They were not as concentrated as they are today. And you should ask yourselves, Majanki, they are merely a symptom of what? A problem. What problem? Poverty. The increased levels of poverty across the country. And why do we have so much poverty in our country? Why do we have so much poverty? When we have so much potential, whichever sector, whether you look at mining sector, there is a lot of potential there. Whether you talk about my basic minerals, my copper, my copper, Nyambiri. Whether you talk about precious minerals, kurikaseseri gold kuja kusorowezi. After abwera akainde, anapala kuja, aikako wa national service, wakumba weka usiku. Those are our minerals. We can exploit them to chepesa poverty, isn't it? Yes. The other big problem, which is a major cause of this poverty, is the selfishness in the current administration. Selfishness. Wafuna kudia weka. Wafuna kudia mtumba. Those who went to primary school in those old days, where they say in Kujira Mtumba came from, there were those other kids whereby if you buy things at break time, magula masamusa, apemba, kule wanzake, eva kagula fitumbua, aika mtumba. So mwana che tumba yona kapapa saiti. Adiera mtumba. That is how the new dog are behaving. Adiera mtumba. Man, if you look at President Hakainde Hichilema and how he came to be where he is today, how he was able to migrate from Kalingalinga to Kablonga, and then from Kablonga to New Kasama, you realize that he was empowered by the government of that time, the Frederick Chiluba government. They empowered him. He was a relatively young man. But when government decided that they wanted to do privatization for this country, they did not look outside the country. They did not go to France or America or Chanchanuko. Vananga na lokali no kambati inchito tienti gawanisa Zambians. And President Hakainde Hichilema himself was identified to participate in the privatization process when he was a relatively young man. He was in his early 30s, but he was identified to participate in a national undertaking. Mampasa konchito chita. Mamena nashtira ijanshito whether anashta buino or anajanda ramaza boma ningani ya deina. But point yalero nyakuti vanamshta empower. He was empowered. If President Hakainde Hichilema was never empowered, today he would have still been in Kalingalinga. Because Olukablonga Uja, Nyumba Yamena Nagura, it was through the connections he made with the people who were privatizing Lima Bank. So me, if I'm privatizing company A, and my friend here is privatizing company B, azanu kuri nyumba Okablonga yenda pa give away price wifuna. Ndamu there yifuna. Anpasa angulisa nyumba. That is how he acquired the Kablonga house. That is how he was able to move from Kalingalinga to Kablonga. Mayona mamena hili empowerment. Manje. Mukaona pamene tiriri lelo. After our friend was empowered by President Frederick Chiluba during that time, Bamushta empower, apangako economic progress, ashtako na participate in politics. Today is the president. Is he empowering other Zambians? No. We'll look at two examples. Just two examples. There is a recent contract which was awarded to try and reorganize Mopani copper mines. Yeah. For government to decide whether they want to continue with that contract which PF entered into to buy shares in Mopani or not. And the government wanted advice on that contract. Do you know who they hired? No. You don't know. You are in the media. You can Google it. They hired an international American firm called Rothschilds. Rothschilds. That firm, they are paying it more than $50 million. They are paying it more than $50 million. That is the kind of work which can be done by a lot of Zambian consultants Zambians, manje, there are a lot of educated Zambians who can do that job. If you go to LinkedIn, almost everyone has an MBA. Everyone has an MBA. There are plenty of chartered accountants. There are plenty of professionals who can do that job. We have a lot of consulting firms here in Zambia. But Hakainde Hichilema did not look at any of them. Instead, he went and contracted an international firm called Riichest. They were many of no pasa $50 million. Which advise Palimopani. So you can see, this is someone who was empowered by being given an opportunity, and then he becomes president, and he has an opportunity to empower other Zambians, but he doesn't want to empower other Zambians. I'll give you another second example. The issue of KCM, whether government should continue with that liquidation or bring back Vedanta or not. Government wanted advice on that. It was a recent tender action. You are in the media. Who knows who that tender was awarded to? Among you in the media. You have to watch the media. Who knows who that tender was awarded? It was all over the papers. That lady who is the liquidator, the Indian lady, made an announcement, and it was all over the media. That tender was awarded to a South African company called Land Merchant Bank, RMB. Again, that tender is worth more than $30 million. That's a lot of money by any standards. And yet, it was not awarded to a Zambian firm. So then, how do you expect Zambians to make economic progress if you are not empowering them? If you are empowering your colleagues in South Africa, in America, Mazambians, you don't want to empower them. And yet you are a product of empowerment by the previous government. Is that fair? Tikajandaura ni shtara kwa opposition. Sinara. Man, tupuna ziko ratu iende pasogoro. Chitukuko shibwele mziko yake. And it can only happen if Zambians are empowered. They are given an opportunity. Without an opportunity, we cannot make progress. As simple as all that. And the reason in the majanki wapaka is because there's no empowerment of Zambians. Zambians need an opportunity. We are hardworking people. We want a good life for ourselves, but we don't have opportunities. So we are just asking the new dawn in general. Now, I'm sure I'm social media. So now to pass upon opportunity. Now is the Mazambians Diego Bueno. Na Mazambians wanga makalinga nawe bakukileko ukablonga. Mamele mnakukira imwe tapapata. Ziko.
Wow. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our final speaker of the day is still adjusting his binoculars. He has to see from afar. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Patriotic Front, member of the Central Committee and the Chairman of Information, no other than Comrade Raphael Akachinda.
Thank you very much, members of the press, Honorable President. I want to believe that the message has been delivered very ably, articulate on all the facets of the issues we wanted to raise. Mine is basically just to make some pronouncement in addition to the course of actions that have been pronounced by President Kavimba and all the presidents here. We have an opportunity through Parliament to take decisive steps to deal with what is obtaining in this country. Before I get to that, President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema has been embarrassed by a fellow African president who made similar promises like he did President Ruto of Kenya made a promise that when I get into government, this law, defamation of the president law, I'll get rid of it. I don't want anybody under my watch to be arrested because they said something against me. Even before the law has been repealed in Kenya, one citizen called President Ruto a dog. Yes. And the police swung in action to go and arrest that citizen. President Ruto suspended the police officer, instituted disciplinary action against all of them and censured them because he is committed to his pronouncement. That is a leader that you can trust to govern a nation. A leader that governs by convenience is dangerous. Mandela said, anybody who changes his principles depending on who he's dealing with cannot govern a country. Exactly. We have in State House a president who says one thing in the morning, another at lunch, and something else in the evening. Unfortunately, in Zambia, we run a presidential system. The buck stops at the president. And therefore, you cannot avoid but talk about the president. So this business of UPND as a party and as a government wanting to stop citizens, especially critical stakeholders like political parties, from talking about their president and what he's doing. I don't know whether that is ignorance or what you can describe. The buck stops at Misaka in the HLM. And therefore, he is our subject for the next 5 years. But at least now it has reduced because we have endured 1 year a month. We are yet to endure another 3 years. But when you look at Zambia, I think it's not to be 3 years, another 2 years. Because the other months we'll be dealing with him every hour before the election. Allow me to address Misaka in the HLM direct. My elder brother, Noah Patwangu, Bahaga in the HLM. Power, my brother, is nothing but an illusion. It is nothing but an illusion. It is an imaginary thing. One can only say they have power when they have the correct information and have control. The rest is symbolic. More often than not, we equate power with influencing others. But some within Misaka in the circles know that he is slowly handing over power through his actions. Even the action of arresting an opposition leader today, because we know that our colleague, we're going to escort her. From here, we're going to the police. They're going to arrest her for saying something that he did not like, or the president. Let me say to you, without saying much, I want to tell Misaka in the Ichirema that viewing power as imposing one's will over others is a very dangerous illusion. We have a president who, from the time he was inaugurated, has been systematically violating the Constitution, if not suspending the Constitution. What has happened so far? We are like in a state of emergency. Actually, in a state of emergency with a reckless leader. Because most of the things that have been done are in contravention of the Constitution. What President Kavimba referred to, there are even universal standards with which you deal with the security. Our former Foreign Affairs Minister here can confirm there is a way in which you handle your defense force. Where's still when it comes to issues of audit? Because auditing is flipping all the books to discover whether there are irregularities in how matters were handled. But that is not done in a manner that you undress yourself. we have a president, colleagues, and members of the press, that is a glutton for money. Because of his gratuitous behavior of wanting to make money in everything and through anything, and that's how come he is actually going to he has contracted those firms to which he has interest. Every contract, including what President Sean Temba has referred to, whether it's the Rothschild, what is the pronunciation? These imperialist organizations, sometimes for some of us who are patriotic, we don't even pay attention. But he has an interest because he's a puppet of these people. They are the ones who have captured the economy of South Africa to a point of even having, at the time of the change of government, they have had the central bank in private hands. Aka in the HM has been attempting quietly to have the central bank here in Zambia privatized. The same way it is in South Africa. And this is from... But we need to stop it. What he has done concerning our defense force, he's undressing us. But he's not only undressing us, he's also undressing our cooperating partners. Because we receive support and cooperate with other governments when it comes to issues of security. So the Americans, Akainde is undressing them regardless of them supporting him. The British are being undressed through this process regardless of having supported him. The Israelites are being undressed regardless of the support they have rendered to us from the time of independence. Russia and so on. So Misaka in the Ichile Mashuari, even if we have appetite, Yandarama. Do you want to go to that extent? But we have a duty as a people, and we have a duty through Parliament. Hence, as opposition, we're going to move a motion, which is under construction right now. It's being drafted. We have senior lawyers that are working on it through the leader of opposition to move a motion of impeachment against this president because he has violated the Constitution. President Kalawa has articulated ably what is supposed to happen. He has given statistics, acknowledged even by international organizations, on the importance of the agriculture sector. Under this regime, where a president even boasts that I'm a farmer, the agriculture sector is disaster after disaster. So in Parliament, we're moving a motion of censure against that minister of his.
Yes.
So that Parliament can debate the issue of inputs and all these things that are tormenting our farmers. Already experts in the agriculture sector, they have already predicted that as it stands now, we have already lost an opportunity of producing 1 million metric tons of maize from what previously we had produced. So we are already at a loss of 1 million metric tons of maize. What is remaining, we have to work 3 times as hard to produce it. So there is already a rooming hunger coming. But I can tell you what the deal is as we zoom. We have a president who is a puppet of the West and puppet of imperialists. There is a backdoor arrangement to try and make the West look good. They are going to start coming here to donate GMOs. After we sabotage our own capacity to produce our own food. Share. So there's a motion of censure against the Minister of Agriculture. We are also going to move a motion of censure against the Minister of Health. The one that Mr. Akainde is now priding himself to be a very good minister. Muntu bamba kuti kuli nchaga chitandiza wande kwanda mota ya mwana ako wedding wali kwanda mali kulima corruption agu sisi bagatora amene wazwa omujombana ndijirombana president and go one of the best ministers that you have. I've never seen that.
He has low standards.
He has thrown away all values enshrined in the Constitution. Actually, he has become a promoter of corruption by that statement. But we are going to move a motion of censure against that minister together, through her, together with the president, because they are killing Zambians. Every patient that dies as a result of lack of drugs in our hospitals, the blood of those patients are on the hands of Misaka in the Ichilema and have his good news. We are also going to move a motion of censure against the Minister of Finance. How can you have that kind of confusion that President Kavimba said? The Auditor General, who's under the Minister of Finance, says, I don't know about those audit processes. The minister goes on the floor of Parliament and says, not me. You should ask the Secretary of the Treasury. What kind of government is this? I thought the minister himself is supposed to respond on behalf of all of them. Yes. The auditor, the Secretary of Cabinet. So we want to ask him, Sobotwan, when did you develop this amnesia or some situation? Because you seem to be seen now. When you are a minister in MMD, you are very articulate. Under this government, what has happened? But we know some of us that is under capture. He's struggling to execute his duties because he's receiving some of the most absurd directives from somewhere in Shantumbu. Is it Shantumbu? Off Shantumbu. Or Forest 26. But beyond that, we also have a disastrous CDF program. So we want Gary Nkombo to come and answer on the floor of Parliament. Our members of Parliament have been implicated through this so-called increase in CDF. Those who have been members of Parliament, Honorable Kavimba, know that what is going on now is just basically a populist political arrangement to which the ruling party thinks that they can gain mileage. But it's going to eat and work against the sitting members of Parliament. Because that manifesto is not being implemented according to the law. It is being used by UPND to say, sing a narrative. It is disastrous. Therefore, we want to move a motion of censure against the Minister of Local Government. Those are some of the actions we are going to take through Parliament. Over and above the good work that our Honorable President are doing, going to court, and the other actions that will be taken. But the greatest of all actions is Zambians to rise. When we say rise Zambians, we rose in 1964, challenged the colonial government at the time. We rose in 1990 and 1991 to challenge the one-party state. It's time for us to rise. The ugly head of a dictator has already been clearly manifested before us. And somebody in the UK said, you don't cure the stupidity of a dictator, you get rid of it. We have a duty as we march towards 2026 to deal with what is going on in Zambia, and I thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As you are preparing your questions, prepare your questions. You are free to ask any president, anyone seated on this high table. We will do it in this way. In the interest of time, we'll only take 5 questions. You introduce yourself and the media house you're representing, and then you ask your question. Then we'll take 2, they respond, and we'll take 2, they respond, and then we'll take the final one. Okay. There's one. There is one? Okay, please. Thank you. Then we can do the closing remarks. Yes, please.
I'm from Millennium Radio. My question goes to Mr. Nakachimba. You have spoken highly against constituency development plan, but contrary to assertions from the ruling party members, including Vice President, who are on record praising some of the members for the correct and application of CDF to good use, and some of your members that have been praised, Kanchiria MP Sunday. So I would want to perhaps challenge and just get your thoughts on this. How come you are admonishing CDF, when on the other hand, there are some of your MPs that are being praised for putting these funds to good use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We know that when politicians make pronouncements, like especially the UPND, many times they are never sincere. What I have stated here is a position, and everybody here appreciates the fact that that is just a camouflage, something to use to advance a narrative. In relation to our members of parliament, you know, there are people who, even in the midst of a mess, they can still make something out of it. It doesn't change the fact that it's a mess, but they can still produce something positive out of that. So if there are members of parliament from Patriotic Front, for example, that have tried to fight through this all scandalous arrangement to still do things that are beneficial to their constituencies, and it has been acknowledged by UPND, it is only purely based on the fact that possibly they are skilled to make out something out of a mess. But it doesn't change the fact that this is a mess. And we know that Madam Vice President, Madam Nalmango, there are many pronouncements she makes on the floor of her house, and you can see it's just off the cuff. She hasn't even applied herself properly. And to that effect, she politics more than she even channels out facts on the floor of Parliament. So if there are members of Parliament from Patriotic Front who have done something positive, for us it's not even about a program of CDF, it's just a skill of our members of Parliament who are able to produce something out of a mess. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Ross.
Let me just say something about this Kanchilia narrative. We all know that Gary Kombo is the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. We all know that Gary Kombo is the one who is charged with the responsibility of disbursing this CDA. The common sense question, which defies logic, is how is it possible that CDF would work in Kanchilia and not in his constituency in Mazabuka? Yes, that's a common sense question. Why and how should Gary Kombo travel all the way to Kanchilia to go and praise, the people of Kanchilia on how they are making use of CDF successfully, and not go to the shortest distance to his constituency in Mazabuka and tell us how this CDF is working? So can you see that the whole thing is rubbish? It's politics.
Thank you. Okay, let's take that one before we
Good morning to the President and the rest of our community here. My question is over the President Hakainde's refusal to move to State House. It was an issue before, and apparently right now it's like you, the leaders, have toned down a bit over the issue. The question is, are you fatigued over that one? And are we going to see the same character of an issue comes, after some time you lose out consistency, and then you bank that one? Then there's been word that the community house is more comfortable than the Nkwazi house, which is a state house. Dear presidents, you and I know that no matter how beautiful a house can be, it can never supersede a state house because of the location, the protection that surrounds it. Immediately, direct you come out of state house, there is the Arakan barracks, which is not there when you go to the community house. Behind the state house is the Zambia Air Force, which is not there when you go to the community house. On the other side, when you study the location of State House, everything points to one thing. It was organized to provide the best security to the presidents. So we are asking, is it possible that you continue this fight so that our president is in the right place to allow the nation to be at peace, that is as secured as we are supposed to be. Thank you very much.
President Kalala, want to take that?
Let me answer that question. I don't know what it's
Lovely. Oh, President Lovely. Okay.
Thank you very much. President Kalala has already started with the comment that doesn't know what he's doing in community house. I would want to also to echo the same. You see, State House is not just any other house. It is the people's house. And it is quite disheartening that we have had comments from the presidential spokesperson saying that it is not even acceptable for him to stay there. And Mr. Anthony Wanyedeke, he said State House is even better than his. I mean, his house is better than State House. I think that is an insult to the Zambian people. The Zambian people built that house. Successful presidents have stayed there. Dr. Kaunda, President Frederick Chiluba, President Rupia Banda, President Mwanawasa, everyone. It is also a symbol of prestige for the Zambian people. Whether it is small, whether it is big, whether it is not nicely shaped, it is the house for the Zambian people. It is the repository of power on behalf of the Zambian people. Yeah. So once again, we would want to call President Hakainde Hichilema to move to State House. And for us, it is disturbing that the same arrogance is displaying towards the opposition political leaders is the same arrogance is showing in not moving to State House. The president should listen to the people of Zambia. The president should hearken to the voice of the people of Zambia. The issues that my fellow colleagues have brought up about today, if the president does well, whose credit will it be? Is it to the credit of PF when they do well in terms of governance? Is it to the credit of President Sean Tembo when they do well with KCM or MCM? Is it to my credit? It is to their legacy. So one wonders, why are we fighting ourselves? When these things, when you do well, it is to your legacy. Generations that will come, they'll be able to say they did well. So again, we call on the president. You may be extremely rich, but Zambia is full of poor people. And those poor people, through their sweat and blood, built their state house. Respect them enough to move into that house so that you can be the president for all Zambia.
And just a quick one. This one also is a challenge to the media. Normally when somebody works in the government and they don't move into their house, they get money, housing allowance. So find out, is the president getting housing allowance as he stays in community house? Okay? And what have they done to the house? All the things that are happening at community house, who's paying for that? So all those things are things that you need to take keen interest in. Because at the end of the day, we don't want a situation whereby somebody is appearing as if he doesn't want to stay there, and then he's making a lot of money from not staying in State House. So those are the things. I don't want to say anything. I want you the media to do your own homework and go there and ask the right questions and report back to us. When he's not staying there, is he getting housing allowance for not being there? Because just when the UPND formed government, I told people one thing, that with the UPND, even the kind of corruption that will be happening, will be the kind of corruption you see in Europe. You know it's there, but you can't see it. But it's there. And for me, I thought they were that clever that we won't be seeing it. But funny enough, we're actually seeing it. You know, and that's the reason for the set conference today, whereby we are seeing so much corruption massively. You know, we're seeing it. They're not that clever. So for me, even the issue of the State House, trust me, because they like locking up people for anything that they say. So yourselves do a research and find out if there's no money coming out from him staying at a community house.
I just wanted to say something quickly. I want to recommend a book to members of the press. There is a book which is entitled Waiting for World Peace to Vote. It's a very small book. I'm sure you can afford to buy that. This book describes how African presidents are superstitious. Ukwebanye, Cote d'Ivoire, Joseph, what's the name? Mobutu, Sese Seko, Zaire, you find a whole host of how African presidents are so superstitious about witchcraft. And I think the guy who has written that book should write an edition and revise it and add HH to that list. The reason why the man does not want to move into State House, he thinks he's a Kituma with State House and in Nkwazi House. And that is why you see him having 2 bodyguards. One from the state and another man we don't know. Up to now, I don't know that man behind. Superstition. So if you want to be superstitious, don't get to the presidency. Go and join the Kabuhai. Okay? So all these issues, and the issue of security is paramount to us as a nation. But to him, the issue of superstition is more paramount than the security of this nation. That's the man that we are dealing with. They answer you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As we conclude now, let me just invite 1 minute of closing remarks. I'm guided. 30 seconds. Closing remarks from all the people on the high table. We'll start with President Slavo on the other side, then we'll be flowing to the
Thank you very much. Again, I would like to say thank you to my colleagues for making this press conference happen. This conference is about issues that are affecting the nation, to make sure that our nation is governed in the right way. I conclude or leave 2 questions to the Zambian people. You denied violence. You refused violence in 2021. Is it acceptable now? Is the UPND violence acceptable just because they're a new government? Is it acceptable, the second question, that the presidency, the apex of our leadership in the country, should be in the fore of breaking the rule of law? Is it acceptable to the Zambian people? Is this what you voted for? I thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I don't even know what I should say. But first is to thank our hosts. It also takes courage
Exactly.
To host a meeting like this. Because some people cannot even afford to do things like this, even to sit where we are seated here. We are not here because we hate Mr. Akainde Ichilema. We have got no business in hating somebody we are not related to directly or otherwise. But Zambia is not a private enterprise. Zambia is a country. And that's why it has got a constitution. So for as long as Zambia is a country and you've exhibited interest to participate in the economic emancipation of that country, don't be irritated when you see us seated like this. Because we'll continue making checks and balances on behalf of the people of Zambia without fear or favor. And if there are those who are thinking they are going to intimidate by making the police rise, I want to say this myself. There is nothing wrong with being arrested.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with being arrested. Even Wakaunda Vena Kwatomwenso, who would not have gotten our independence today. Many people who have broken the barriers, they have broken those barriers because they were brave. And I can assure you that if we continue doing what we are doing now, we continue getting united, and let them not use politics of division. I've seen on social media flying, no, you should not attend that meeting. Yeah. No, you shouldn't be there because you are. Those are cheap tactics of wanting to show you as being a state council among us people are not lawyers. No, but how can you, are you? Those tactics will not work. Let's be resolved, colleagues. Let's speak to your leaders here. Let's be resolved and stand up for the sake of our country, Zambia. Because if we don't, posterity will find us on the wrong side of the argument. Thank you.
I think it was in the microchirurgia case where the court ruled that to be a politician, you need to be thick-skinned. You have to develop thick skin. I think it was that Sakala who came out with that ruling, if I remember very well. And President Hakainde Hichilema, he needs to develop thick skin. We are not in the driving seat ourselves in terms of the ruling party, but we have developed thick skin. That is why there are members insult us day in and day out, but we are strong. And he needs to be stronger. But he's a person that does not have a thick skin. He hates criticism. His people hate criticism. And on top of that, because I concentrated on human rights today, I want to say that he should uphold the human rights of each and every person in this country and not create his own interpretation of things. Because he knows. When I call him a demagogue, some UPND members will say, demagogue is an insult. It's not an insult. You just have this person that uses the ignorance of others for his own purposes. So he may not even respond directly, but he's going to use his members to insult the opposition. And for the first time in the history of the country, we have seen a president who's so ruthless even towards women. I repeat, the issue of Mumbipir. Honorable Pir, you're supposed to be there for such a long time. You know, President HH could have stopped this somewhere, somehow. We know it's a murder case that they're dealing with and everything, but there's so many things that have been confused with many things, just to ensure that people stop talking about it. You get the point? So at the end of the day, we know what he's doing. Lama kamba no kamba, chimamuna komenya na namkazi, also black jackets. Manje wa HH wa vula jackets. That's why we find even a person like me, I'm a woman, I'm putting a jacket for president. You know? Wavula jackets, madam guys. You know? I've got two sons. One of the lessons I tell my children is that don't fight with women. I tell them that all the time. They ask me, Mommy, so what do you do? The woman does this. You stay away, you run away, you do whatever. That's what I teach them. But I present HH. You know? I remember talking to Tali the other time and he said, the problem with this man, you even know that he's fighting you personally. And that's what he's doing to a number of us. You even know that this is a personal fight from the president himself. And women are not spared. And in politics, trust me, even when we talk about this so-called political violence in Zambian politics, when we're in the field, normally when they come to attack the men, we defend our men like this. No, don't do this, don't arrest him, don't do that. Because you know that the way they will deal with you as a woman and the man is different. You know? But in this Hakainde Hichilema regime, trust me, in fact, because I know that this ruthless regime is so ruthless that they don't care. They just want to hammer everyone for anything and everything. So at the end of the day, Hakainde Hichilema, this is going to restrain. Thank you so much.
10 seconds. I just want to say what my brother
Harry Kalaba.
No, HK. What HK has said. And this is to our supporters. Comments. It's to our supporters, you the media. Okay? Those of us that worked in government, you know, HK and myself, we know how the intelligence system, and some of them I think are seated in this audience, how it is used for the purpose of just one man, called the president. So they will infiltrate our political parties, they will infiltrate the media in order to divide this team. Because HH knows that if we maintain this spirit of a common purpose, in 2026 this is what HH is gone. If we maintain this team up to 2026, from now up to 2026, HH is gone. There are two things that the Zambian people refuse to accept from any political party. Violence, which is already cultivating, and corruption. Immediately you wear these two tags, in the view of the Zambian people, you are God. So, for me, I'm very clear, countrymen and women, that Hakainde is going to survive on intimidation, violence, and corruption within his party. And corruption does not only mean to get money from the treasury. To give contracts to a company or companies that is owned by a friend of yours or in which you have, an interest is also corruption. It's called jobbery, Jobbery in English. There's a specific term for it. So as he is hunting down others for corruption, he is also, with his colleagues, engaged in acts of corruption. So the Zambian people make a judgment. But what we should not accept, colleagues, is to be divided. Those text messages, no, what are you doing with winter? Ignore them. So that's what they will try to do. Next time you see when we call a press conference, if we fall victim to that, they will only be thrown us here. Next time too. Next time it will be short tempo alone.
I think we have work to do. Our colleague is going to the police, so we're going to proceed. I'm sure I'll pass to
Thank you, Comrade President, for first making it to this place, and the media as well. Your attendance is what has established this function to succeed. And for you, the media, I just want to mention that under the new dawn, there is not much difference between yourselves and us, the politicians. Because I'm sure you saw the way your colleague, innocent Speedy, was bundled into a police vehicle and put in cells overnight. So when we talk about harassment, when we talk about intimidation by the current regime, I'm sure going forward you have a better understanding of what we're talking about. Now that you are beginning to fall victim of the ruthlessness of President Hakainde Hichilema. What we have, countrymen and women, is an individual who is aspiring to be a dictator, a wannabe dictator. Whether Hakainde Hichilema succeeds to be a dictator or not is dependent on how we handle him. Yeah. If we are soft on him, he will succeed as a dictator. And when he becomes a fully-fledged dictator, Mamentiri Banoso, Nishimakada Zamboponya Miala from outside the gate. That is how a dictator operates. So it is up to us to stand up to those dictatorial tendencies that he is exhibiting. Up to us to stand up. When I say us, I mean us, the political leaders, and yourselves as the media. Zambia. Very important. Otherwise, today, you think that, no, short tempo, maybe akamba maningi, that's why I'm doba wa police. Maybe President Savoy, akamba maningi, that's why I'm doba wa police. But my, wapu doba na wa police. What is innocent? What is innocent? He was doing his job together with his colleagues. But Bamunyamura, and they forced him to pay admission of duty. And the only reason he paid admission of duty is because mentally he is not yet prepared to handle intimidation. Just like all of you, the media, you are not yet prepared to handle intimidation. He said, we are more seasoned, who didn't pay an admission of duty. Those that very get in court in the jump. So you need to begin to prepare yourselves. It will not be easy. Everyone can fall prey. You understand? And what we are asking for is not too much. What we are saying is that if anyone commits an offense, let them be handled according to the provisions of the law. That's all we are asking. Why should you go and arrest President Chirufya at night and you storm his house, Monga, you are dealing with an aggravated robber. Monga flying squad. When you're fishing out in the middle of the night, you even step on his head as you are driving out. Is that necessary? No. Is that necessary? No. Every time that President Chirufya has been called by the police, he avails himself. Except when he's outside the country. Then when he comes, he goes to the police. So why not just call him, he goes to the police? Why? Why not do that? So it is this heavy-handedness by President Hakainde Hichilema, whereby if he arrests people, he wants to exert as much punishment on them as possible before they are even taken to court, that we are saying no to.
Yeah.
President Hakainde Hichilema himself, when he was arrested, when he was in Mkoveko, people were taking things for him. His wife was taking him food. My blanket was on Perekera. In fact, Penzo Choka, Nachoka Oina, Pchamwana. Monday he said, Mama President Sawoi has got a cough. She's in a cell where there are no blankets, naked concrete. Taenda da inomtanda liata, kuletere ma blanket, ati you can't give him a blanket. So, when you are arrested, what changes? You are no longer a human being. You are no longer entitled to the rights of a warm night. Is that what they are saying? And yet you have not been convicted. Is that the kind of due dawn that we are going to have? So we are saying no to that. Those are tactics by Hakainde Hichilema to break us so that you can see Wakatironga before Vuto. But it's still a muyopa. Imemuria hapana washushushu ndizi wa walipo. Mugamuze atisiza muyopa. We'll face him head on.
Yeah.
You know why? You know why? Because Zambia is our country. Yes, it's our country. So no one can intimidate us in Zambia. Some of us who have lived outside the country know that when you are a foreigner somewhere, you are a third-class citizen. Yes. Because anytime you can be deported. Manje, outside the country, we should be afraid of not having peace. Tabwera muziko yatu ino. Hakainde akibuti. Simbiza shitika.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, heartfelt thank you and tributes to you for coming. I'm advised as we